You are listening to the Waking Up to Purpose podcast with Lily Badcock in association with lilybadcock.com. What if every challenge you've ever faced was for a purpose? What if every perceived failure was in fact you stepping ever closer to the life you were born to live? I'm Lily Badcock, and I'm here to let you know that you were born with a divine purpose in your heart. And you're here because you know that's true. The process of awakening can be tough. Fired up and inspired one minute and then overwhelmed and lost the next. I've created this podcast to share with you every aspect of my own journey to purpose, as well as the stories of others who have walked the same path. Fear and doubt can place a lot of uncertainty in our minds, but here's what's true. You are needed. Your story matters. Wake up. Rise up. Together we can. Hello, welcome to the Waking Up to Purpose podcast. Today I am joined by a beautiful soul, and actually someone I know personally, and have done for many, many years. She's been in my choir. She's just one of those human beings that exudes sunshine wherever she goes. So I introduce, with lots of love and excitement, Penny Calvert. Penny, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
I feel like I need an applause button. But when I do, like, that was a big build up and then there was nothing, like not one clap. God,
a tumbleweed.
It was a bit of tumbleweed. Yeah. Anyway, everyone listening, if you could just imagine some rapturous applause, because there absolutely would be if there was anyone else here. There would be rapturous applause. I'm so excited to have you on this podcast. Beautiful Penny. So this podcast is brand new at the moment. It's only been out a few weeks. And as the name says, it does what it says on the tin. It's all about waking up to purpose. But as woo-woo and weird as that sounds, I know, and you know, that the process is anything but airy, fairy and fluffy. It's not as glamorous as it might sound. And I think, you know, from my personal experience, life takes you on a bit of a ride, and it kind of, it bats you left and right and up and down, and it molds and shapes you into the person you become. But I know that for people maybe going through that process right now, it's going to be really useful to hear these stories from people that have been there before. So why don't we start by you telling all of my listeners, all 54 of you at the last count, big shout out to you guys, thank you so much. Driving, keep listening. Why don't you let everybody know who you are and what you wanted to share on this episode with us today?
Right, okay. So like you said, Lee, I know you because I rocked up to one of your choir sessions one day, and life has never been the same since, to be fair, in all the best ways. And I think, so when you put out the shout to say, does anyone want to say anything? I thought, yes, hopefully I've got something useful to say. And I think, I mean, I'm not like you in that I have a normal job, and you have this far more raw, energetic, passionate, free-flowing, creative way of gathering people up and inspiring them and setting them free by what you do. And I think that that's one of the most amazing things to ever experience, come into contact with. What I do is a bit more of a kind of steady, I've never been one for trying to get to the top of the game. I'm not a competitive person. I'm passionate, I'm stubborn, I'm very creative, I argue, I have strong opinions. I know that comes as a shock to you, Lily. Total shock.
Totally shocked. Yeah, I would never have guessed.
But coming back to your point about sense of purpose, I think sometimes in life you have really clear messages come at you. And for example, I knew at the age of 15, I want to go to art school. That was a really sudden, strong feeling, which I then tried to talk myself out of for 3 years, and then realised I can't talk myself out of this. If I don't go, I will literally sulk for the rest of my life. But a lot of the time, the rest of life doesn't come at you that strongly, and you can end up missing out on a whole load of messages that you should have picked up on. So realising that, you know, a relationship that falls apart in a horrible way was actually because you hadn't properly listened to who you are. So knowing that I am passionate, stubborn, willful, creative, you know, one of the first most difficult points of my adult life was realizing that, you know, a marriage was coming apart at the seams, and that I was coping brilliantly at holding it together, but inside I was dying every day. My wardrobe was just black. I didn't go out. I didn't mix with anyone else but family. I was a shell of the person that I really am. And it took some very key moments to make me see myself from someone else's point of view. So I had a conversation one day, and I think this is that point about waking up to purpose, is sometimes people come into your life and you end up having a conversation with them, and because you hear them say what you're thinking, you suddenly listen to it properly. And having someone else reflect back to me what life was like to live with made me think, what am I doing? Why am I still in this position? Do I want to teach my 2-year-old and my 4-year-old that I am a woman who doesn't argue back because it's easier? Do I want to teach them that I shouldn't tell people that I've been to art school because I'll get my nose rubbed in it? Oh, well, you know, blah, blah, blah. You did that because you went to art school. And it's that meanness in other people that some people, it's like water off a duck's back, but for me it hurts. I think that the power of words needs to really be understood, and something we were talking about earlier, that just because you can say it doesn't mean you should. And I think there's part of the responsibility is with the person themselves. Do you want to let the world get away with telling you that? Or should the world even say it in the first place? And I think being an adult's really hard. You have to find your way between who am I, what matters to me, what do I have control of, what can I choose to do, and then you've got all the things that life throws at you, which is literally can some days just feel like a whole load of barriers. And I think one of the best thing about being brave, in that you might leave the house, you might try something new, you might walk into that choir, you might try and go for a new job, you might choose to end a relationship, some really scary stuff. But what you're actually doing, as well as being scared, which is just an emotional response to the newness of it, you are suddenly about to walk into a whole set of opportunities you wouldn't have had if you didn't try. And I think I am not a risk taker by nature. I love security. I'm a Taurus. I like solidness. I want my family to be safe. I have protective instincts. But at the same time, that stubbornness is what gives me the strength to go, yeah, I know you're scared, but hell, are you going to let it stop you? Or I have to almost dare myself. And the dare comes to, is it going to kill you? If the answer is no, well then just fucking get on with it, would you please? Just try. Yeah. Because you can always go home and get under the duvet and eat biscuits and watch Netflix. It's all good. You can have a little, you can cuddle the dog, you can, you know, bawl your eyes out to a friend, you can, you know, go home and think, oh my God, what have I done? What a plonker. But that's the worst it's going to get. And sometimes you just have to be brave and open your eyes. And if the world's giving you messages, or if your own sense of self or your own set of things happening in front of you is like a big universal message saying, hello, do you want to do something about it? And you know, I've loved getting older and being better equipped to recognize those messages coming at me loud and clear. It takes a lot of work, but it's worth it.
I think that's so true. I think I've noticed that as well as I've got older. Not only have I been more aware of the messages coming in, I'm more willing to learn about how it all works as well. And I do find myself sometimes slipping into wishing that I'd figured this out 20 years ago. It's like, oh God, if only I knew what I know now. Like when I was being bullied at school, I wish I knew what I know now. But then I come back to, that's part of it though, and I feel like we really get to honor that growth, we really get to honor that journey, because it's that actually shapes us, you know. Because the truth is, somebody could have rocked up at school when I was 15 and being bullied, and they could have told me everything I know now, and I wouldn't have been ready to receive it. I wouldn't have been in a place where I understood. It would have sounded like absolute rubbish. And certainly what I've realized is the things I listen to now, and, you know, even this morning, I went for a beautiful walk this morning. It's this new thing I'm doing for myself. I take time for me. It's the first thing I do every day. And
that's brilliant.
Sometimes it's an hour walk, and sometimes it's 10 minutes with my journal. But because I'd realized that, you know, I was getting really resentful that I was waking up, and it seemed like, how I described it to somebody once and not that long ago was, it felt like I woke up and landed straight back on the hamster wheel, and the wheel never stopped spinning from the night before, you know. And it was like I literally wake up and it would be like, oh, the baby wants boob, and oh, the kids want to be fed, and oh, Kevin's off out the door because he's got to go to work, or he wants to play golf, or and then as well, energetically, I'd be on my phone and there would be messages in my inbox, emails, everybody wanting a piece of me. And I love giving pieces of myself out to the world. It's what I live for. But guess what? If you're not filling the bucket up, at some point it runs out and you have an absolute meltdown. And so something really new to me is taking this time. And so even this morning I went and had this lovely walk, and I was listening to an audiobook, and there was just light bulb after light bulb after light bulb coming on. And yet none of the things I was hearing were brand new information. And this was the point I was coming back to, because, you know, it's not that there are suddenly things that you learn that you've never heard before. It's just, it sometimes takes a while for it to go in. It's like the first time you hear something, I mean, I could get into a conversation about neural pathways, but that's about as much as I can say about it, because I'm really not a scientist. But I know that the first time you have a thought, your brain creates a neural pathway that's very weak, but it's there. And then every time you have a thought that's similar or the same, it strengthens that pathway and eventually becomes a belief. And so I think this information is constantly coming at us. And what I've learned is, what we do have control over is what we are receptive to, and what lots of people are not aware of. And, you know, to use the term waking up, what I mean by waking up is just being aware that your life is in your hands. And yeah, life might throw a bunch of crap your way, and you might not have a choice over how somebody chooses to treat you. You might not have a choice over how somebody else decides your day is going to go. But my God, you do have a decision to make. You have a choice as to how you're going to move forward from that place. And I think so many people take these knocks and these challenges, and they think it means a whole bunch of stuff it doesn't mean. You know, like you've mentioned, a marriage breaking down. So many people, and like me included, I've had a broken marriage. And actually, with mine, it wasn't something that was done to me. I was the doer. I was the one that said, hang on a minute, this isn't right. And you're so right. It takes absolute balls of steel to be brave. But I just remember the day that I realized, shit, I'm not supposed to be here. Unfortunately, it was only, well, what was it? It was a matter of months after I'd actually got married. So with that, immediately, like you said, you get the guidance, you get the clear guidance, you feel it, you know that's what has to happen. And then straight away off the back of that, in comes your brain, in comes your mind going, yeah, but you can't do that because of this, and you can't do that because of that, and blah, 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 blah. What amazes me is I don't really class myself as a brave person. Like if you put me anywhere near a roller coaster, you'll see there's no bravery here. Like, I will cry and scream like a little girl to get me off it. I rode a roller coaster once and I was screaming so much before they'd even locked the seat down that the attendant had to ask my best friend if I needed medical attention, because they were really worried about me. I was having like a full-blown panic attack, and like they were like, you don't have to be on this ride, right? But so I don't class myself as brave. I'm not a thrill seeker. Like, I'm not one of these people that would choose to go up in a plane and hurl themselves out. I'm not brave in that way. But I have always seemed to have had the ability to know in my heart when something isn't right. And I've always had the strength, and I think I get it from my mum, I've always had the strength to just follow what's right. And I mentioned I get the strength from my mum. I did, but I also have always been really blessed to have that support. And I think support is so important in that place. And it's not always family. Sometimes support shows up in the form of friends, or work colleagues, or it could be anything like that, and even your own kids. But it's that being brave, it does take bravery, it does take balls of steel to actually make that decision before you've even taken an action. You feel it, don't you? Because you get a bit tingly when you're resolved, like, I know this isn't right and I know I'm gonna leave, holy shit. And then your human starts freaking out, going, no, how about if we do it this way? And you're like, nah, it's done. Like, I'm doing this. And I think it's such a powerful realization. And I remember the moment that I just knew. And it's very, very different. Obviously, I'm married again now. There've been plenty of times. I'm a drama queen. I frequently will throw my toys out the pram. I know. There's a lot of shocking revelations coming through on this episode. No one would have known that was so there's plenty of times where I'll throw my toys out the pram and be like, oh my God, that's it. Oh, I can't go on. It's a completely different thing though. And in the same way, like when I'm being dramatic and on the surface going, that's it, it's done and I can't, my heart is going, no, you can. Like, this is where you belong. Like, don't be silly. It's a scary talk yourself out. Like you said, when you had the nudge to go to art school and you tried to chat yourself out of it for a few years, at some point you just know that it's not going to go away. The decision has already been made. The result already exists. It's out there in the quantum and you're heading for it. So, and I've said this to people even recently, when you're feeling called to something, you just recognize that when you just know that thing, when you know that decision, and it could be around anything, it might be over a relationship, it might be over work, it could be any decision, but when you feel that truth in your heart and soul, you may as well tell yourself at that point, this is happening. So whether I do this now or whether I do this in 10 years time, it's going to happen. So what do I choose? Like, am I going to choose to wrestle with myself for 10 years or am I just going to pull the cord and go? And I think, so obviously you've had that ability because you said you had it when you were going to go to art school. What is it, do you think, that what's the word I want to use? What is it that dilutes the intensity of the message from your heart? Because I think as kids, we have this ability. I see my kids do it all the time. They just make demands. Kids are just like, this is what I need. Get it now. Like, I need to be fed. I need to have this program on. I need you to give me my iPad. Like, whatever it is. They just don't go, oh, no, I think I want to get in that pool, but, it might be a bit cold. And like, I might slip and hurt myself. Like, they're just not equipped like that. which in some ways is bad, I suppose, because they don't know how to keep themselves safe. But there's so much to admire about that, because kids will feel what they want to do, they follow it, and they trust it fully. What is it that dilutes that connection to our heart, do you think, as we get older?
I think there's two things. So firstly is that, and I know this because through work we've done particular sort of psychometric type models and things, but I'm definitely what's classed as an extrovert. That doesn't mean I just do jazz hands all day long. It's actually the fact that a very simple way to kind of determine is, if you've had a really stressful day, do you want the company of good people or do you want solitude? Which of those would you naturally head to as being how to top up your batteries? And I will always plump for a room full of fabulous people as my choice, whereas my partner will always say, I would like to stand in a river and go fishing. Thank you, kind regards. All of you numpties can bugger off. So I am an extrovert. So I am put together in a way where the world around me feeds my messaging. So the way that I'm put together is one of the reasons that gut message got diluted. Because the second thing you learn as a child, both from your parents, from school, is behave, do as you're told, please people. And manners are important. Learning how to get on in a social group is important, but I think if you don't at the same time learn a sense of self-expression, and more importantly, have someone who champions you, you just lose the ability to believe in yourself when your ego isn't fully formed. I don't mean ego in that kind of, whatever, swagger kind of like, hey, I'm so great. I don't mean that kind of like, I am bad, and I apologise so much. That was the worst street cred bollocks you could ever wish for. But you know what I mean? It's that whole, the kind of like wide boy thing, you have to put it on, you have to fake. And it's, although I sang in a choir at school and it was exhilarating and it was one of the most wonderful things. I got to fall in love with Venice. Venice is where I should live, basically. I got to fall in love with Venice because we went there with school. We sang Vivaldi Gloria in Vivaldi's church. Wow. And, all the hairs go up on every part of your body. But I learned to sing in a choir in a very formal way. So singing on my own still scares the life out of me. I can't stand at the front and do the solo in the same way that I can feel so comfortable in that group. And that sense of not feeling bold enough, not feeling brave enough, not believing enough in me would be why I'd be like, right, okay, so I know I really want this, but this isn't the best decision, and what if this, and what if that, and and I because I know that I don't like being scared, I don't like upsetting people. Crucially, rejection is one of my biggest fears. Being rejected by someone that I love is unbelievably scary. Because it's happened. It happened when my parents got divorced and my dad just stopped speaking to me overnight. I was 21 at the time. I could not fathom it. And to help me process those kind of hurts, I've used counselling before. That's what works for me. The first time I used it, I'd literally sit there in absolute silence for about half an hour like that. So I physically couldn't, it was almost like throwing up to kind of relive those moments that were painful, that had left me so insecure, so alone feeling, so tiny, so small, back to being a child again. And I think that's where fear comes in, and that being afraid to go back to that place of hurt is one of the reasons why you just feel like you can't risk it. I can't risk this. I can't risk this new relationship. I can't risk speaking up at work. I can't risk arguing back at someone in authority, even though I have a really valid point. And the benefit of going through really painful moments in life and coming out the other side is you almost come out with this sense of invincibility. It's like, that literally didn't kill me. That divorce turned me inside out for a whole year. You know, that for the first 2 weeks, when you literally can't stop crying, you have to keep shutting the door and having put your head on the desk and sob while at work. Those moments that just feel awful. Fast forward a year later, and you are like, I'm free. I've survived. I have thrived. And I'm now ready to go bigger and better and stronger, because I did that really scary thing. And every time you survive something really painful, it's you proving to yourself, I won't break. I can do this next, even more scary thing and come through it. So it doesn't matter whether your fear is roller coasters or whether your fear is, for me, it's heights. I trekked the Great Wall of China last year, spent most of the time swearing and crying my head off. Everyone says, oh my God, that must have been amazing. It was memorable. That is a word. But no, would I do it again? Would I? No, I would not. But as a result of that hideous experience that I will never forget, I spent 10 days with 49 unbelievably amazing human beings who had all challenged themselves, and their challenges were private. They were unique to themselves. You know, other people had different reasons. One poor woman's petrified of flying. She had to take 4 planes to do that trip. She literally spent, you know, I mean, that's much worse than what I went through, because you can't get off a plane. You know, there's no getting, you can get off a roller coaster, but you can't get off a plane if you're scared of flying. And you know, that person was amazing. So be brave is one of the best mantras that God has ever got me through. And knowing that I am a stubborn what's a face, you know, it's like, I am hating every minute, but I will not fail. Sometimes you describe that it's great to know you want to do something, and there are equally as many moments where you just think, oh, I can't. And at those moments, it's either, will it kill you? No. Or can you live with the regret of not doing it?
Exactly.
And if that feeling outweighs the I'm too scared, you still have to do it. So throw the argument to the other side, you know, or think, if my best friend asked me for this advice, what would I say to them? And how could I give myself bad advice? How could I counsel myself so badly? Why don't I just plunge in? I still won't get on a motorbike. I don't want to learn to ride a motorbike, because when I ask myself, well, what's the worst that can happen? Is it going to kill you? Yes, it might well. Yes. No motorbikes. No.
You don't need to do it. Exactly.
No need.
I think you've touched on something really powerful there, because one of my favourite sayings is, and I always misquote people, but it's basically along the lines of, you know, what haven't you come through this far? You know, if you're facing something that feels unimaginable and you're telling yourself, I can't do this, you bloody well can, and you will. And nobody's saying it's going to be pretty, but there really is no way around it. It's like, the analogy I would use is like childbirth, and right at the point where you absolutely feel like you can't do it. Like, I remember I know I've got the gift of the gab, and I know I can be really nice to people, and I've like got a lot of things my way because I can be very persuasive. And when Fred was literally trying to be born, I was there trying to reason with the midwife, going, I'm just not doing it. I'm not doing it. No, I'm tired. I haven't had a good sleep. Like, this hurts like fuck. I'm just not. You're going to have to call someone. It's going to have to come another way. And I just remember her looking down at me, and she smiled very sweetly, and she said, you can and you will. And with that, he was like, whoosh, you know, out. And I just think that's such a great analogy, because it's right at the point, where you think, I can't do it. I cannot stand up. I cannot get through. You can and you will. And the quickest way is through. So there's no getting around it or over it or under it. You go through it, and just know that it's not about coming through it unscathed. It's not that is never the goal. It's not about, oh, I've got to try and come through this and not feel upset or not feel afraid. But no, feel all the feelings, but know you're okay. Know you're always supported. You're always being guided. Know that this too shall pass. You know, I could throw all of the sayings at once, you know, about sunshine coming after the rain or the rainbows coming out, like all of those, they're all relevant, because you can and you will get through. And I think it's the belief, it's what we perceive. That was the other point I wanted to pick up on what you just said. It is the perception of what it is you're dealing with as well. And interestingly, what you said about singing and being an extrovert, I always assumed I was extroverted. Lockdown has actually shown me that I'm a massive introvert. I don't miss being around people at all. I'm really
bloody
happy.
Rude. Well, that's just rude. Seriously.
But you know, it actually takes energy for me. I have to literally gear myself up to be in a room of people at a party, unless they're my people. Like, I don't have to do that to walk into the room of Evo, like my choir, because to me, that's just an extension of my own soul.
Yeah.
Like, there's no difference there. It's like all the best things that would top me up times by 50 in that room. And the same can be said about, you know, my communities online as well. But definitely, if I'm invited to a party, I always like the idea of it, because I love to get dressed up. I love to put on makeup. I love to do my hair. I love all of that. I really love the build up to it. The minute I'm there, I just want to come out. I find the energies of lots of people draining. But the interesting thing was, for me, singing is that escape. It doesn't matter how many people are in front of me, because my brain isn't perceiving that. My love of singing, and this is going to get us on to just do what you love. And everyone has that thing that they love that lights up their soul. And for me, it's singing, which is why singing has never been scary for me, because you could, and I'm not saying my human wouldn't feel nervous if you put me in front of 5 billion people. And actually, Kevin will attest that when I went for an X Factor audition, I was definitely ash coloured as I was lined up to go into that room. But that wasn't about the fact I was singing in front of people. Again, it's perception. That was all about being judged. I do not enjoy being judged. And I had this powerful realization a few years ago when I was actually heading up an exam for students of mine. And it was at the start of a 2-day ordeal, I'm going to call it, because I would get sick with worry, literally sick with worry. And then I would get really ranty and be like, how is an examiner that doesn't know these kids going to come in and pass judgment on my kids? They're not my kids, but you know, they're my kids. How is someone going to come in and pass judgment on my kids? They don't know what it's taken for that child to get up and sing. They don't know what it took for that child to learn those lines. They don't know what it takes for these kids to dig in and grab those emotions out and pull them out of their heart and throw them at the audience. Like, they're just watching it in the moment with a piece of paper and ticking boxes. And I had this powerful realization right at the beginning of day one. And I turned to my colleague who, like, we were doing it together. And I was like, I don't believe in exams. She was like, what? I said, I don't believe in exams. This is bullshit. I was like, I'm not here for this. I won't do this again. And I haven't, and I didn't. I'm not saying that other people shouldn't do it. If exams light you up, great. But, you know, I just realized that I was getting nothing from that. And, you know, that brings us back around to that concept of people pleasing, or of doing what's expected. It was expected of me to do that because of the line of work I was in. It was just like a snowball. It was kind of like my first marriage. That was a snowball as well. It was expected of me. And I'm not saying at the moment that he proposed that I felt like, oh, well, this is expected of me, I better say yes. I absolutely said yes with my whole heart. But that's how powerful your beliefs can be when you're bombarded with, and this is relevant to waking up actually, because when you start to drag yourself down a path that is littered with green ticks for everyone else but you are going to feel it. You're going to feel it physically. You're going to feel sick. You're going to feel stressed. You're going to feel resentful. You're going to feel angry. You're going to be so tired and maybe with no explanation as to where that tiredness has come from. And on the flip side of that, when you allow yourself to walk your path and to do what is right for you, it's like breathing air. It's so easy, and it will energize you beyond belief. It's the reason why I could sit on this podcast. I could still sit here until 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. We won't do that. Nobody panic. But I will never get tired of doing this. It would never tire me out, because this is literally me in my zone of genius, talking about things that I love, with people I love, for people I love. And that's what it's all about. And, you know, the bottom line is, if any part of your life right now feels hard, just know that it doesn't have to be like that. I think there's this collective belief that life is hard, because we're bombarded by it, aren't we? In the news, on social media, even success stories have an undercurrent of struggle. Like, you won't read many success stories that don't start off going, oh, it was awful, it was dire, but then it got better. Like, we're so conditioned to believe that before we get to be happy, we have to struggle. And that's why we accept so many things that actually aren't for us, because we've got this underlying belief that, yeah, I probably should do that. It probably does have to be hard. It's probably more important that I make this decision, or I do that thing, because it's going to make someone else happy. At the end of the day, how you feel internally changes everything. It's the most important thing. So, you know, like, I will now take that time for myself in the morning. And I used to think that was selfish. It's actually selfless, because now I'm not a ranty mum. I'm not resentful. I'm not a snappy wife. Well, sometimes, if Kevin's listening to this, he'll be like, yes, you are. But, you know, very, very infrequently now, as long as I top myself up first. You know, I fill up my own cup. On the days when I don't do that, it shows. Because I'm starting off on a back foot. I haven't given myself any opportunity to say, what do I need today? What do I need for this day? And by the way, that also goes for following processes of other people. So I know lots of people on their self-development journey are following other people for an example. So they're downloading, you know, checklists or blueprints of, this is how I got myself out of depression. This is how I got myself out of an unhappy marriage. This is how I got myself out of being out of shape, and now I'm, you know, ripped and size 10 or whatever. The thing is, those processes and those blueprints will be useful, but ultimately you know you best. So it's no good, even if it's a blueprint that's supposed to do something good for you. If any part of that feels like you're stuffing yourself into a box that doesn't fit, then it's not for you, and you don't have to do it. There's nothing you have to do to get to the outcome of you being lit up and on purpose and on path and living the life you wanted to live. There is nothing that says you have to meditate every day, or you must, you know, lift weights every day. You do the things that feel good for you, and that's the bottom line. Mic drop.
Boom. Boom. I absolutely agree. I think for me, the words I'd use is, it's that finding the dollops of joy, because even on the shittiest of days or the best of days, if you've bothered to find out the things that bring you joy, the fact that you know that, and you can go to them when you need a little boost. So things like doing really scary things. So being on the Great Wall of China for me was utterly scary and would never to be repeated. But what it helped me see was, this is really, I really couldn't get further out of my comfort zone unless I actually did it naked or something like that. But what it made me realise is that when I then was home, it was a sunny morning. I was drinking a cup of tea. I'm in my garden, and I'm like, look at the smile on my face. I'm having a cup of tea in my garden in sunshine, and I feel utter joy. Yeah. And that's all I've got. I don't have a Maserati. I don't have a Gucci bag. I don't have something really expensive and a really lavish lifestyle and an amazing set of followers on Instagram. I've just got this really tiny, simple thing that I can grab anytime I want, and it's mine, and it's right here, and I feel so comfortable and therefore so low in, no stress. Yeah. Nobody wants me. It's just me, my cup of tea, my garden. And your point about doing that first. So especially at the moment, I love this time of year because my brain naturally wakes me up at 6 a.m. like, hello, shall we get on? And you're like, oh, please, come on. I'm old. Stop it. But, and then the dog realizes I'm awake, and then I get the fishy dog face in my face, like, mummy, mummy, mummy. So feed the dog, put the kettle on, and then sit in the garden with a cup of tea because nobody else is awake. I have the place to myself. I can watch the birds. I can just feel the sunshine. And I don't have to do anything at that moment. I can be still. I can daydream about what colour nail varnish to put on. Whatever happens to be floating through my head. Maybe I'm planning something for work. But it's just a little sacred moment of joy. And it's all mine. And it's enough to start the day off correctly. And sometimes, again, so like later when we finish talking, I'll probably go and have my glass of wine in that semi-darkness, and I've got little solar lights, but they're not really bright ones. It's not like Gestapo spotlights out there. And it's almost like recreating a little slice of holiday, that lovely feeling when you're abroad and you've just had some dinner, and maybe you walk home and it's still warm, you don't have to put those little moments that just make you think, oh, I love it. My favorite sound is crickets. That chirrupy crickets makes me think, oh, I'm abroad, I'm somewhere fabulous.
Yeah, nice. So you've taken me there. I'm now topped up and brimming full of joy, because that would be one of my happy places as well. And actually, I've seen your garden on Facebook, and it actually does look like somewhere in the Bahamas or something.
I could only improve it by having the actual sea.
The actual ocean in my garden.
Actual ocean next to me. But I know you've said it before in other places, but as well as knowing what things in the moment can give you the joy, coming to know who you are and what makes you happy, and thinking ahead to what you'd really like to happen next makes a big difference too. Because I've always tried to not do a full-time job, because I don't want to wait till I'm 70 to retire and then have all the fun. I'm like, why the hell have I got to wait till then? What's that about? What is the point of commuting for an hour and a half just to have a bit of extra money in the bank but no time at home to spend it? What's that about? I can't, it doesn't fathom in my head as being sensible. I would rather have less money and more time. But I've done this. I've always had this weird thing in my mind when I've been looking at decisions and how to make choices about lifestyle. And it's like, if I got a letter tomorrow telling me you've got cancer, what would I stop doing immediately? What would I kind of go, that is not necessary?
Yes, such a good question.
That's a have to do, or think I have to do.
Yeah.
And I just immediately think, right, well, anything that comes under that list is going to get the bare minimum of my time, because that crap is not going on my eulogy. Wish I'd spent more time dusting, never going to say. Wish I'd spent more time at the seaside, always going to say. This may sound really weird, but I've said to my boys, and it came up in a conversation, kids go through those certain ages where certain questions come into their heads. It's like they're putting the world together in their minds, and they're like, Mummy, how long are you going to live for? That sort of stuff. I think that was about between 6 and 8 they started asking questions like that. And you're kind of trying to prepare them for it, but not in a way to make them scared and run for the hills. But I would say to them, look, if you ever need to know where I am when I've died, just go to any beach and know that I'll be sat with you. I'll be at any beach, anywhere in the world. I'll be right with you. That's my happy place. I will always, if you need me, go to a beach. Don't put me in the ground and put a headstone up. Go to a beach. That's where I'll be. And helping them understand that who you are as a person, helping yourself understand who you are as a person. I know, and lockdown has proven it to me. I've been wickedly jealous of a friend who lives at the seaside. If I'm going to have a daily walk, I want to be at the seaside for that daily walk. I love where we live here. We live in very beautiful surroundings, and I really do appreciate it. But it doesn't raise my joy levels. It doesn't have that physiological effect on me like the sound of the ocean has.
Yeah, no, I feel you.
It calls me. You know, that I need to be near water. That's all the tingles just go off when that happens.
I love it.
Again, just listen to your gut, listen to your soul, listen to when your body's telling you, I love this moment. And it could be because it's with a person. It could be, you know, the fact that I've got to go and have a walk around the park with my friend Michelle, or that I've come singing at Evo and then I can't sleep for 2 hours. I hate you, Lily. You've made me Evo-somnia is a real thing, you know. It's
a real thing. It should go in the dictionary, 100%.
But your point about being judged, you know, walking into Evo that first day and forever day after that was, I wasn't mum, I wasn't wife, I was Penny. And none of you batted an eyelid in a bad way. None of you judged me. It was just, oh, hello, here's another nutter. Brilliant, join in. And it was absolutely...
She's one of us.
Unconditional love.
Yeah.
And it was just the dose of what I needed at the time. It helped me prioritize myself where I'd allowed it to build up to years and years and years of being... do the right thing at work, be a good mum, be a wife, all the things for everyone else. Where's Penny gone?
Yeah.
Here she is.
I think that's the magic of the group, and I've said it so many times before that I take no credit for what that group is, because I feel like it is a soul and with a purpose of its own. I feel like I was blessed to be the driver of whatever vehicle it is, but its magic feels bigger than me, and I feel as blessed to be in it as any other person. It really is just a magical energy, and it actually, even one of my best friends who's been in the group previously and came to see one of our shows, I think it was our show last summer, and at the end she said to me, she was like, oh, there was some magic aura coming off that stage. She said it was just powerful, like you feel it. And that's what I love about it. It, you know, it really does, it allows people to remember who they are and then love who they are, because it's mirrored back to them. That's the beauty of it. But I don't even know at what point that happened. It's just become that. So yeah, so powerful. And I love that you call it dollops of joy. I feel like follow your dollops of joy should be a saying, if it isn't already. Let's get that put on a t-shirt. And I think, you know, really what you've touched on is, yes, because you said earlier, I don't have the Maserati, I don't have the Gucci bag. But the thing is, that's not where the happiness comes from anyway. The happiness is a decision, and your decision to be happy can be made now. And it comes from accepting all that is now. And that doesn't mean that you're settling. That doesn't mean that you're saying your bigger dreams don't matter. You're saying that you have your bigger dreams because those are exciting for you to have, and you're excited to take that journey to call them in. But those dreams don't get to determine whether or not you live a happy life. That's a decision, that's a choice. And I love that question you asked yourself as well. I journal on that frequently. If I found out that today was my last day, I kind of word it a little different. I think if I found out that this was my final day, what would I be kicking myself that I hadn't done yet? And then like fucking go and do that thing, because actually nothing's guaranteed. I don't know who we all are flouncing around thinking we're supposed to live to like 100. Like, as far as I can see, that's not a guarantee in any way, shape or form.
Oh, I'm smashing that out. I'm halfway through, baby. I've still got 49 years of hard work to go. Let's have this.
I don't know if I'm up for
Just
it.
been a warm-up till now.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't, I don't know about that. It doesn't look appealing to me. No one has sold old age to me yet, I've got to say.
Oh no, spitting in the street and running your umbrella on the railings and wearing purple. Bring it on. Love it. There's a beautiful poem about it. I'll find it and I'll send you it as a message. It's just wonderful.
I just think, you know, ultimately follow your dollops of joy, because they are your given gift to find your way back to joy. Joy is your natural state, and that's not to say that therefore it's wrong or bad if you're feeling anything, but just know that you get to find your way back there. If where you are at right now listening to this does not feel like joy, just know it's your birthright. It's for you. You'll get your way back, and it takes one step at a time. You don't have to make a big leap from feeling down and, you know, down right where anxiety, depression and stress is. You don't have to make that leap right to joy right now. It's just search for a better feeling thought. What feels better right now? You know, a worrying thought that you're having or something that's making you anxious. What would feel better right now? You can just ask yourself that question. What would I choose? Like, what do I choose? What feels better than this? And then reach for that, and you'll find your way back, because it's what we are all, it's what we all are. We all are love. We all are joy. That's our natural vibration.
I think choice is a brilliant thing to bring up, because you can still choose. If it's all a bit too much, I'm just going to choose to be still for a minute. I choose not to make a decision right now because I know I can do it tomorrow, or I'm not ready today, but I am choosing to just hold on a minute. I'm going to choose to do that decision in an hour's time, or I'm going to choose to do that decision after I've spoken to someone I trust. But the point is, you don't just drift. You don't just kind of allow yourself to be a victim of time passing by you. You choose. I choose to do this now. I choose to park it. I choose to leave that and let it go. I choose to grab that next thing coming. And one of the things I had to learn to do, and I think something I learned specifically about that first marriage, is that I realized that I was put together with somebody who, the way he was built and the way I was built, was a really poor combination. And it had happened because neither of us had understood ourselves properly. And I realized that I'd aligned myself with someone who has such high standards in their world that nothing you do is good enough. And it's not because they're trying to be cruel. It's just they have that particular ambition, that particular drive, and it just does not work. And so realizing that I couldn't make that person happy, which was an awful thing to feel, made me think, well, I need to be with someone who knows when they are happy. When am I feeling joy? When am I happy? And I also thought I must teach my children that when I'm happy with them, that I tell them. Obviously I tell them off as well. They're boys. I have to be quite strict, because they're going to be bigger than me one day, and they need to know that I disagree with them before they're too big for me to, wrestle them down into submission. I've been fairly strict, but they know full well what makes me happy. And there was a moment last week where I literally nearly cried with happiness at the desk. I'd been up early, working from home that morning, and my oldest gets up. I'm at my computer, still in a dressing gown with a cup of tea, but I'm at work. I'm not on a Zoom call, so it is appropriate. It's all good. And he says, "Good morning, Mum," and he just starts to stroke my hair. Oh. And I just kind of melted into this little pool of I was so humbled that he would just gift me such a kindness that I literally, so I'm doing it now. I'm leaking from my eyes, but it was just, it took my breath away that I had managed to raise a son who knows that will make Mum happy, and he just thought to do it spontaneously. And I think if you are someone with really high standards, whether it's for yourself or whether you project that out onto other people, just be aware of the fact that if you're not able to recognize when you're happy, or if you're not able to share to somebody, I am happy with that, or thank you so much for making me happy, or making me feel happy, then they may give up trying. They might stop wanting to interact with you, or you might stop wanting to do that for yourself. So I think it's really important to realize how to communicate how you feel in a way that other people can learn.
Yeah.
It's not about that they have to please you. Toby didn't do it to please me. He just thought of it. And then he went off and carried on with his day, onto the Xbox, doing zero schoolwork. He should be doing exams, so he doesn't actually have any to do. But it was just a lovely gift to be given that morning. And I was just so grateful for having put the effort in to help them learn how to know what, you know, there are days, like you talked about earlier, that whole kind of, you know, your husband wants this and the babies want that. And some days you're up for it. You're like, do you know what? I would like to make you happy. I want to gift you something that brings joy to your face, because that will bring joy to mine. But you are gifting it. So you have taken a piece out of you and given it to them. So it comes back to that point. If you carry on doing that all the time, it can be really tricky. So coming back to that point about choices, sometimes you have to choose to say, no, I can't do that. I know I choose not to do that. And I think the only other thing that I really wanted to share is that I learned, I reckon it must be about 10, 15 years ago now, that guilt is a waste of time. It is a terrible misuse of energy. That's not to say you should never care about hurting people, but I think if you start to sense that that guilt inside, right, what am I guilty of? What do I think I've done wrong? Can I fix what I've done? You can fix it. If you can't fix it, say to whoever it is or whatever it is, this is how I'm feeling and I'd like to put it right, but I don't know how. Open that, deal with it. Don't leave it as, oh no, I can't phone them because I haven't phoned them for ages, or oh, I should have done that thing. Should is a terrible word, and that guilt will eat you up. It will suck out your energy and you'll get nowhere with it. Go digging, work out what's caused you to feel guilty, whether it's the to-do list that you wrote last week that you haven't done yet because you're following someone's idea about, oh yeah, start your day with a to-do list. Oh my God, please don't. How about a done list? If to-do lists depress you, just write a list at the end of the day of what you've did, including, I cleaned my teeth. Tick. Yay.
Yeah. Yay me. I breathed in and out.
Life is full of, you know, you could come up with 300 new things to check against by the end of your day. So just boil it down to the basic stuff. Boil it down to what has made me joyful today. What have I ignored? What have I chosen to do or not to do? There's a lovely line in Cat in a Hat movie. Such a child. Some of my favourite movies are all children's. And it's the little girl saying to the cat, we don't try, we do. And she's just, so, well, I'll try it. So we don't try in this house, we do. And then the other one, of course, is Yoda. There's do and there's do not. There is no can't. And I think that's absolutely your point about choice. I choose, I will not do this. I choose, I will wait to do this. I choose, I will do this immediately. But there's no need to be guilty. There's no need to just go la 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 and ignore it. You can take control.
Absolutely. I think it's so empowering to recognize that there is always a choice. So often when people are feeling anxious or stressed, it's because they feel like they don't have a choice. You're always making a choice, even if you're doing something because you think you have to, you're still choosing. Like, it's still a choice, right? So if you said, oh, but if I don't do that, then this will happen. Right, that's probably true, but recognize that's still a choice. That's not to screw anyone over mentally. That's just to say it re-empowers you, because thinking you don't have a choice is disempowering. You're giving your power out to whatever you're giving it out to. And that feels like shit. But it feels better if you can go, well, okay. And the same with guilt, actually. You know, like you said, if you're feeling guilty about something or regretful, look and say, well, is this something I can change? If it's something you can change it. If it's something you can't change, then really it's just about owning the choice you made in that time. And there's a great quote I heard from a guy called Dr. Joe, is he a doctor? I'm not sure. Joe Vitale anyway. And he said, if you'd known better, you'd have done better. And I love that phrase, because I think so often we regret decisions we made, or we regret, you know, paths that we took or whatever. If you'd known better, you'd have done better. And if you know better, then do better, you know, allow it to be a lesson. Don't spend your life dragging it around like a heavy bag. Like, at the end of the day, it really only affects you, you know. It doesn't, you worrying about that doesn't even affect anybody else, even if initially it involved other people. It really is just about you and your energy and what you're now choosing. So some powerful, powerful things that have come up. Thank you, Penny. Awesome stuff. It should be like a weekly segment, I think.
Would we ever get anything else done? Who
Probably
cares?
Not. Probably not. It should just be like an ongoing live stream that people can just opt in and out of. A bit like Big Brother used to be 24/7, didn't it?
Oh my word, yeah. We could just choose different venues. So we could do Seaside one week, Hot Tub another week.
Yes.
Royal Albert Hall the week after that, you know. Let's do it.
I don't think you'll get me out of the hot tub. If you can get me a hot tub with a sea view,
yeah,
I want a hot tub with the sea view. Screw that Royal Albert Hall. Like, get me in the hot tub with a sea view and a glass of prosecco.
I've been trying to convince. Obviously, I haven't seen my partner for 8 weeks now because we don't live together, so I can't see him.
Wow.
We had previously talked about, you know, where should we go and explore, and looking at maybe going and doing some little visit to somewhere in Europe. But obviously, Mother Nature has told us we're all a bunch of, and we ought to stay still and not spread viruses. So I was trying to think of other places now where my brother, who's a wonderful human being, also, and his wife ditto, and both their children, they're awesome. Sickens me, but they all live up near Morecambe. And I said to him, actually, Chris, there's a penthouse suite at the Midland Hotel, which was built in the 30s, and they've restored it to beautiful Art Deco glory. You can have the penthouse suite on the roof, which has a roof garden and a hot tub overlooking the amazing Morecambe Bay, straight onto the Lake District in the background.
Wow.
So you can go downstairs for a lovely afternoon tea and some cocktails, and then bugger off at the pub to go and meet my brother and have some beers. Yay! And he's like, well, in that case, that sounds like a great idea. So this is what I'm working on. This is one of the aims I'm going for. One of my life goals for this year is to see if I can make that happen.
And
because
that
would be all the joy ticked.
I was going to say, that is an epic dollop of joy right there.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, I think follow your dollops of joy. If there was going to be a lesson coming out of this podcast episode, it's follow your dollops of joy. Absolutely. And be unapologetic about it. And if in this moment you're finding it hard to find a dollop, know that another dollop is coming soon. Hang in there for the dollops. The word dollop is just the best word ever.
It's good. It's good.
No one says dollop enough.
Well, it's like clotted cream, isn't it? That's a proper dollop, isn't it?
A dollop
of joy right there on a spoon. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being my guest on the podcast. To everyone listening, let us know what you thought. Don't forget to give us a rate and review on Apple iTunes, and we'll be back again soon with another episode. Sending lots of love.
Bye-bye.
And here we go. It's time for a cheesy sign off. Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to join me and my awesome community in our free Facebook group, Wake Up, Rise Up, go and check out the link in the show notes below. Don't forget, every Friday you can join me in that group for a live Q&A, and I also stream that on Instagram. All of the links you'll need are in the show notes for this episode. If you love the show, please go to iTunes, leave me a comment and a review, and share with anyone you know who might love it too. And in the meantime, have an awesome day and keep shining. It's time.